that sound? That's fucking disgusting.
In answer to your question, yes, Sin's going to be doing Tournament 1. I don't know why he hasn't shifted up in there. If you want to drag him and drop him in there, that would be fantastic.
Do you want to join us in a 4v1 against Happy Meal?
I'm going to be streaming you and refereeing you, so no.
No, because it's I, Miles, and Haru against Happy Meal.
Yep, we made up new rules. No, but he's gonna be streaming our asses.
It's Sad Meal.
Sad Meal. Well, that's my name, yeah. It's gonna be Sad Igor after this battle. How about that?
Oh my god, don't do this. I'm just...
Okay, I'm back.
I'm just a newbie player. I'm not a pro player.
A pro player?
I need to... Can we have like 1 minute to... I need to set up a TeamSpeak. I have one ready, I just need to give Igor
Miles and I will go into TeamSpeak. You can go, you can stay in here.
Well, actually, for the streaming purposes, it might be good if they set up their TeamSpeak, because then we don't have them chatting over the top of the stream.
Yeah. Cannon needs to be in his own.
But we're gonna go in TeamSpeak anyways, then, right?
Okay.
So, see you on the other side.
Hello.
Fuck. Why the fuck is King Strategist in this fucking TeamSpeak right now? Man, look, I'm gonna go into fucking commander quarters. You can't go there. Oh man, I'm such a fucking savage. Why?
Right.
I'm gonna pull you in commander quarters as well. Okay, I'm gonna say it to King Strategist though. He doesn't.
You guys send you the stuff in.
Okay.
No, I need to set up push to talk in here.
Yeah, we're gonna be muting the Discord.
That means you're not going to be able to hear me if I need to tell you anything.
It's fine, you can just disqualify them if nothing happens.
Okay, guys.
I'm gonna mute my mic then in Discord.
That's better. The game name is Miles & Co. here, okay?
Yeah.
Once you've all joined it, I'll start the 10 minutes, okay? And I'll put your money in, although it's a bit clunky.
The only problem with hearing you though, Ken, is that we're gonna hear you streaming, so we're gonna...
No, you're not, because I'm on push to talk in Discord, and I'm on all voice on the stream.
Ah, okay, then that's fine.
So, yeah, please start entering the map if you can see it. For those who aren't in full screen, can you check to see if Sin has moved correctly into Tournament 1's room?
Yes, in Tournament 1.
Marvellous. And then we'll just have to keep track of whose wins what.
I just hope I don't forget that I have push to talk now.
The password for the
No
channel.
password, just for your TeamSpeak, that's different. Okay. There's no password for the game that I've set up, but obviously I know your names, so I'll kick anyone who isn't you guys. If you do accidentally push to talk and start talking Discord, I will let you know, because I'll know it's an accident. For those that are joining us, actually I don't think anyone's watching. If anyone is watching, that's fantastic. Welcome to the round robin finals for the continuation of Third Age Reforged. We are going to be doing a system where all the winners from yesterday will be fighting each other in a points-based system for a victory. Each battle will be half an hour, and what's going to happen is they will get a point for a victory, obviously no points for a loss, and if they get to the timer with the opposing team to less than 5% of their value for their forces left, then they will get given victory.
Miles & Co?
That is correct.
Cannon!
What?
There's no
What
password
is
on
the channel?
There's no password on it, so I think Jimbo Jones is...
Oh yeah, I'll boot him out.
Okay. What? Who's not in here yet? Igor, are you not in here?
It's fine. We're just setting up
Okay.
TeamSpeak. It can take a couple of seconds if you don't mind.
Is your in-game name the same though, Igor? Otherwise we won't know who is who. If we're wrong.
1 minute, I'm trying to do something.
Someone's alt tabbed.
Hey, Cannon, sorry to bother.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question. It was, can people be the same faction if they're in the same team?
No.
Okay, cheers.
Tell you what, I'm going to reset this up, but with a password, because he's still showing up as a player in the game, but he's not showing up as a player in the chat, so I think it may have bugged it. Although someone is still alt-tabbed, I think. Happy Meal, I'm getting connection problems from you.
I'm currently minimized, so.
Great. Could you unminimalize?
Yeah, I was just sending the TeamSpeak information again to Igor.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to set up the channel again with a password, okay? Because we're getting randoms jumping in. So everyone just buck out anyway.
Igor, I sent you the new information. Just input that and it should be fine.
Okay, it's rehosted. The password is the numerical number of 1 on your keypad.
Hi.
I can see you guys all trying to join, and it seems to be bugging you all out.
So there's no response from host for like third time now.
Restart the game, Cannon.
Yeah, I'll restart it again. Hold on.
Let's all restart the game, by the way.
For those watching, we're just having
It's fine, my game crashed anyway.
slight issues, so we're just going to restart Third Age. Basically what's happened is that we didn't put a password on the first time round, and I should have probably thought better of it, but it's caused a lot of people randomly joining who are part of the community, and obviously we're grateful that they want to be around, but it does mean that obviously they're taking up slots for the other team. We are now just trying to make sure that everyone gets in. Oh, King Strategist, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the stream today. Hopefully the stream is working okay for you.
I don't know what happened, but Igor just disappeared out of TeamSpeak. Is he still here?
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from, T-Strategist. I agree.
Can't find the server.
Server's up. It's called Torn 1 Semi Miles & Co. It's only just gone up.
2 though.
Try doing a quick refresh. Obviously, as you all try and pile in, sometimes it can bug out a little bit. So, but it seems to be that everyone's joining without any problems right now.
Igor just needs to come back in TeamSpeak.
They just love it when the values bug out.
You got to restart his PC. It may take a couple minutes until if you.
Okay, team 1 and 3 should have the correct values in for Florins if you move back up. For those on the stream, what I'm going to do is, so that we can correctly see the values, I'm going to up these guys to a slightly higher amount, which will even it out by giving me a value. Or it should do if it doesn't bug out. And then what will happen is that we'll be able to see the numbers of forces correctly. Good old 10-year-old game.
Yeah, that's ego.
Okay, your 10 minutes to start. Your army starts now. It looks like you have the right values. I will be in team 1. However, what it's going to do is going to give me... No. You come and join me in team 1, Happy Meal, because we need to see the percentages of forces. So what's going to happen is I've given myself an increment more. Obviously, it gets shared out with me. I will take the barest minimum of units, and what we'll do is just before the end of the battle, I will emit defeat, which will give us the correct percentages when it comes to that, if it's that close. So yes, please start building your armies. Okay, for those on the stream, so again, as I was saying, so they have certain restrictions in terms of what they can take. This means that they cannot use the same forces multiple times if they choose to do so. And what will happen is, as well, is that they only get a certain number of units they can take of certain types. For example, they can only take 1 troll or a certain amount of cav. The only team that is slightly different is Rohan, which can take as many cav as they want. Other than that, like I said, certain things like the Steel Bowmen, they can only have 2 units, and so forth. For example, Witches, they can only have 1. To pick up the pace a little bit, because we were quite slow in yesterday's opening sort of rounds, we're going to be a lot more strict in terms of timings. And what's going to happen is they will have obviously 10 minutes to set themselves up, and then they're going to have a half an hour strict rule in terms of how fast the battle is. They have as even of a battlefield as we can do with plain or fields, and they will have obviously points for victories and losses. As I was saying to them before, based on the fact that there's a possibility that people could consider running down the clock if they are going to lose. If a team has successfully defeated the other team down to 5% of their force remaining, that team is going to be given victory, and it's the first to do that. Or total annihilation if the time runs out fully. So they're just setting up their forces now. What's going to happen is they're all going to play each other, and one team will have a break period between each battle, and at the end we'll top that up, and the highest scoring 2 will go to the final, and if there's a joint second or third, they'll play in a playoff for that final silver medal, and obviously whoever gets the bronze. Obviously we want to thank you for watching with us, and hopefully you'll all find enjoyment out of seeing the battles. This is a tournament based on Third Age Reforged, which is a sub-mod for Third Age, based off of the mod Divide and Conquer, which the creators have given Sin and Kuroguro-chan their support and blessing to create a more sort of online multiplayer version of their system. But it's not the only thing they've done. They have obviously changed a number of the stats and created their own units and models. So those of you who are used to seeing Divide and Conquer, you may see a couple forces that you recognize, but you'll also see a few new ones hopefully cropping up here and there. For those who have been fans of Pixelated Apollo, or those who do not know of him or want to know more, a number of the scenarios that Sin and Kuro-chan have created are shown on Pixelated Apollo's YouTube channel. They're generally us playing around with sort of balancing as best we can, and also to try and do a bit of fun lore. And all the scenarios that are posted are playable as part of the mod and included. And many of you eagle-eyed viewers may recognize Happy Meal and Miles, who repeatedly always changes his name. They are supporters and helpers and testers with Sin, and they've come along to sort of join us. So you may see me rip into them a bit or take the piss into them. It's all fun and games because they're good friends of mine. The only other things to let you guys know, all teams have played yesterday, and these are winners of a best of 3 that they had against a random selection that they were paired off with. And that's about it, really. If anyone has any particular questions, I can see the chat feed. Miles does need a permanent name, but however, Miles does like to use slightly inappropriate names, which is why he often gets told to change them, and I think he finds some amusement out of constantly changing his name around. So, interestingly, in the choice from Happy Meal, Happy Meal's gone for Rohan. Now, it would be funny to see if he does go for a full Cav army, which is a possibility if he chooses to do so with the value he's got. He's obviously teamed up with Miles, who's gone for a very defensive force with the Dwarves. Is this going to be constant for... what will happen is that I will do the stream entirely for this battle. Then there'll probably be a short pause while we set up and prepare for the second fight. So it won't be a never-ending stream. There'll be this, and then I'll stop it, and that will become obviously a video within the channel, and then I'll do another one. In terms of minutes left, you've got about 3, Happy Meal. So hurry it up. Oh, okay. In which case, the other guys, you've got 3 minutes.
Is it just one battle, or
You'll
is it
play
like...
one battle against Happy Meal, and then you'll do your next round of battles against whoever, or you'll have your break period depending on how the round robin
Okay.
is. Yeah, so it looks like a very defensive force from Miles and a very aggressive cavalry force by Happy Meal. So I'm expecting to see Happy Meal possibly doing a full cav team. Yeah, no, that's fine. Obviously, more than welcome for people if they're doing their buy fights to watch the battle. The only request that we do have for sportsmanship is that please do not ghost or please do not message the people who are fighting with anything that you may see on screen, for example, ambushes or hidden units, as if, for example, they did have ambush units. As an ally, for example, for Team 1, I would be able to see them, so please do not ghost. So yeah, we might see a full cav army, and we may see a very defensive Miles. On the other side, we have what I think would be a slightly more aggressive force with Gondor and Mordor. Mordor obviously buffed now with the Black Númenóreans, who are a very deadly and strong force. It'll be interesting to see how many crossbowmen Miles brings. He's obviously maxed out by the number of ranged units he can take with him, and he's going to probably need all the help he can get. Those Númenóreans have some very thick armor. And Gondor isn't anything to be sort of lax on either. They have some of the strongest forces in the game, especially with their own cavalry. So if Rohan does go cavalry heavy, they're going to find themselves probably with a good match with Gondor, although Gondor's going to have a much limited number. So we can just see what happens. Guys, this is your 1 minute warning.
Yeah, we're about ready.
That's good. So ready up when you're ready. And we are now about to begin, and we should hopefully see a good fight. Now, please be aware that this is an open beta. There is a possibility of crashes, and there may still be some bugs in the works, so please bear with us if anything like that takes place. As you can see, I've taken the cheapest and minimalist forces I can in the hopes that it will have the least impact, and what I will do is, if necessary, I'll just have my unit mid-defeat, so it's outside of there.
Who exactly are the two dudes we are fighting, and who is the third one that doesn't matter?
I'm dark green.
Okay.
So what they'll do now is they're just in the setup phase, and hopefully that won't take them too long. Obviously I don't want to rush you too much on the setup phase, but don't take the mickey. If you're taking longer than 5 minutes, I may hurry you along. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting matchup. It's not particularly lore-friendly. Kuroguro-chan has joined us in the chat, or unless it's a fake. I didn't believe he would be with us, as he had some real-life things to go for. If that is him, then it's great to see you. If it's not him, then that's a naughty person pretending to be him. Looking at the forces, it does look like we have an extremely cav heavy force coming in from Happy Meal, which will be really interesting to see. This will be the first time of this weekend that we've seen it. He does have a little bit of ground units, just seemingly to possibly make the most of it. And they're just seemingly setting themselves up. Looks like Miles has shifted himself back slightly. Taking I think he'll move those forces up. I think he's just prepping them and positioning. Now they did have a limitation on artillery, but it looks like neither side is probably taking them. There was a possibility. I thought that Miles may take a ballista to counter. So we'll see what happens. And hopefully we'll get the battle running soon. What my suspicion will be is I would expect to see Gondor and Mordor probably want to be quite aggressive. I think that their best bet really will probably be trying to get up in and close on the dwarves as quickly as possible. Keep the Rohan guys harassed. If they've got any ranged sort of mounted units, almost ignore them.
There were no rule changes regarding the artillery we discussed yesterday, was there?
You can still have one artillery in your force. So no, there wasn't any changes that I was aware of. The only change that obviously that there was is that bodyguard counts as the unit types which are also banned, so you can't have that and a bodyguard unit, which you knew about before the end. Okay?
So a catapult is a catapult no matter who mans it.
Yes, that's my understanding. I suspect the best thing to do is probably try and take out the dwarves relatively early, which might be a reason why the dwarves have backed up, because they could, as long as they were able to sort of zone out the cavalry and possibly ignore the archers, I think that the heavy armor they'll have upon them will probably be enough to withstand most barrages from any ranged cav they've got. Once the dwarves are finished, then it'll be a case of just mopping up the Rohirrim. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. I'm hoping to see aggressive performances from the both. They do only have half an hour when the battle commences, so they can't really sit back. So it will be interesting. Okay, guys, you've got your one minute left if for your deployment phase. And I think what the question was is that he's got trolls probably manning his catapult unit, so he's just wondering about them. Although, in fairness, catapult trolls are, I mean, they're useful, but with these kind of armies that these guys are bringing, I think that they'll get mowed down. I think as soon as they sort of would leave the catapult, then I expect that the cavalry would remove them almost immediately. So you can see now, they have lined up to face one another. Miles did continue to leave his dwarves hunkered a little bit further back, possibly just to give him a little bit of room. We have ballista that's been brought and a catapult crew, so they're mixing up a little bit. Now there's not much for the ballista to snipe because the other two opponents haven't actually brought any artillery with them at all. So we'll give free reign. So Happy Mill has a 10-second sort of pause, so bear with him one moment. That's a traditional Happy Meal moment for everybody who isn't aware, so it won't happen again. So Happy Meal does have a small sort of 3-second pause when battles begin due to his internet. It will be interesting to see how Happy Meal does with his Cav macro. Obviously he's an experienced player and I imagine he'll do quite well. You can see that Mordor is immediately moving to join Gondor as ally. I imagine what they'll try and do is possibly maybe turn the flank, or they've seen that the dwarves are a little bit further back and they're going to take the opportunity.
My formation shit bugged out and my formation got for whatever reason cancelled, so can I have like 10 seconds to form up my army again?
Well, I think that they're going to give you 10 seconds to form your army anyway. But I don't think you've got a massive problem. They don't look like they're on the move anytime soon.
Because I saved a specific formation and they just broke everything I told them, so it's kind of annoying.
I kind of feel that those things are going to happen anyway. You have only got 30 minutes. I suggest just trying to get them back into position. I think that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna rush them.
So yeah, so he's moving over to join his ally, which is probably a wise thing to do. Hopefully they won't box up too much. It will be interesting to see what Happy Meal needs to do. He's going to send, I think, part of his forces up to take an opportunity here with the out of formation Mordor forces. He is getting peppered quite heavily here by some strong ranger units that have been brought forward and brought over. And they could start taking down the Cav very quickly if he's unlucky. But he seems to be coming out okay. He's having the odd drop here and there, but I don't think he's too worried. I mean, they are the missile cavalry. I think he's probably quite happy with that outcome from the early barrage. Obviously, the ammo is shared between all of them, so even if he's got one guy left, as much as he might be ineffective, he will still have the full roster of ammunition. It's possible, I think, that what Happy Meal's going to do here is try and just harass, try and see if he can make them break formation, try and pull them out, possibly just try and make them reform. Maybe try and make them bring some more expensive units forward to soak up some of the damage so he can come in behind with some of his cheaper forces. But I don't think he minds too much that he's going to get peppered down with those horses by those archer fire. I think he's probably looking to do that, otherwise he wouldn't have positioned it as he has done. You can see an early charge possibly coming in, but he's going to feint and pull back. Again, it looks like he's probably going to try and keep trying to pull out the enemy cavalry. If he can do that, it might give him opportunity to have basically free reign on the battle. And if he can take the sort of, I suppose, the monopoly on cavalry units, then that'll give him a great opportunity. I'd like to see these guys push out a little bit more, and once the skirmish phase kind of gets more fully in, I might suggest that they sort of start shifting to engage rather than holding back too much. I'd like to see a bit more battle lines, but having said that, the dwarves are quite far away, so I'm going to give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt for now. Obviously, guys, I've seen that you've made your formation as you have done. Once the dwarves do come over and start engaging, and you move away from the skirmish phase, I'm going to ask that you possibly make the battle lines again.
Don't plan on standing here forever. Don't worry.
That's good. Like I said, I'm not rushing you because the dwarves aren't anywhere near you. Just giving you a heads up. So yeah, I mean, I think Happy Meal's playing it really well. Again, he's still trying to sort of keep popping away, trying to find those holes, trying to build those things, and he's not really losing that many forces considering the level and cost of the archer users he's against. They're actually quite a deadly archer unit and quite costly. So if you can continue to make them use up their ammo, that's one less shot that will go towards the dwarves. And it's a possibility that the dwarves are going to be the unit that really wins this. And then what's happening is Happy Meal will probably have some reserve hammer and anvils just to finish it off from the behind. We are having some slight lag. If the lag does become too difficult, I will have to stop the feed, as obviously the match is more important than any video we're creating. But it looks like it's restabilized now. Oops. So yeah, I think the big problem that Miles set himself up so far away that he's struggling to get his forces over, and I think possibly they were hoping that the opponents might charge out to meet them. Not entirely sure, but he's obviously stuck himself a little bit further back, and it's going to take him a while to get over. Again, it looks like Rohan's going to continue to try and sort of work around the flanks, either continue to try and U-shape up these guys to bundle them up a bit more, or just to try and make it so they can't be everywhere at once. He has brought forward his ballista now, obviously confident with his rangers to support them, and he's going to start probably taking some pot shots over at the heavy and expensive Royal Guard. And if you can get some good hits on that, that's an expensive unit to go out. But he has now incurred the wrath of Happy Meal, who's coming in heavily now with a strong charge in. He obviously sees an opportunity to go for some of these archers and go for this out of position ballista, which I think is going to be quite a heavy sacrifice unit. Now, it might be that this is on purpose to try and draw in these forces to get some better shots in, but it's going to be a costly loss since it hasn't actually fired yet. Now, it could be they've realized they're not up against any artillery, and so they don't mind it being taken out because they've got nothing to snipe, but that's a really costly charge there. They're bringing in some spearmen, but Happy Meal has seen that, and he's pulling away his riders, but it's a good sort of number of hits there, and the Elephant Rangers was an expensive unit, and another one on the Nimbredell Rangers, and you can see there that they got a pretty hefty hit, and you can see the bodies there littering the ground. It was fortunate that the Fountain Guard Spearmen pushed up in time, otherwise I think that Happy Meal would have been able to take a lot more a much bigger hit and a few more losses there, and I think they got a little bit lucky that they had the Founding Guard nearby. They do have some very expensive Swan Knights and Tirith Ear Knights, which are really strong and probably one of the best in the game as it stands. But against the sheer number of forces they're up against, it'll be interesting to see how they cope. They'll be able to lock down and win one-on-ones, maybe even two-on-ones, but I think that they'll probably struggle against the sheer number of Rohan forces. And that is it for the ballista. We're not going to see that again. And if you look at the losses, we haven't had that much. You can see where the Fountain Guard really made themselves work. They took out a good few here, but I think that the lives saved and the damage done by Happy Meal is a trade-off he'll probably be happy with. He's taken out ballista, and he got some expensive archer units there just to really kind of put them on their back foot a little bit. And you can see now they've had to bring their spearmen forward. Now this could give an opportunity for any crossbowmen to start making shots at the infantry now that the archers have had to shift back into their formation. Again, I'm less keen about this positioning, and when the dwarves do come over, I will suggest that they start considering to move forward from a rather overly defensive position. You can see that they're starting to box. They've moved their units behind them, and they've shifted themselves round. Now, what Happy Meal's going to do is he's going to keep trying to draw these Inquisitors out. He's going to keep trying to make this expensive unit be tied up. He's getting some nice kills. And what we're going to see is as these forces come and continue pulled away to keep trying to come along and face this unit here, that I think he's just going to keep just kind of kiting them further and further to try and break up that formation a little bit. You can see he's taken a couple losses, but I think those are always intended to be a bit sacrificey in the way that they've been designed. And we can see that the dwarves are now starting to appear on the horizon. Again, I'm not quite sure why Miles moved himself so far back. I think that's personally a little bit of a mistake considering the timer as it's set. And you can see here comes the first charge out from the Mountain Numenorians. This might be that they've seen an opportunity, and I think they have, in which case they're going to try and go for these crossbowmen and the Blackrock Engineers. They obviously feel that they've got a good opportunity to get the dwarves out of position, and knowing that these are very strong in terms of their armor piercing, and they could be the main sort of thorn in the side of the opponents, they're going to see if they can silence them early and take out a very expensive Blackrock Engineer unit. And you can see Happy Meal's coming over to try and make the most of this, and if he can remove the cav and give himself full monopoly, then it may pay off, but that's going to possibly be a costly engagement. But it does look like the Blackrocks are taking that hit. It looks like, oh, that's a good 30, 40. That's a heavy loss, and I think the crossbowmen are going to fare just as poorly. And you can see the numbers racking down from a very strong charge. You can see Happy Meal's come over now. He's obviously swamped up around one group of Numenorians, and they're going to start dropping very quickly. And then I believe that they're going to do the same here. But that's a real shame about the Blackrock Engineers, down to only 46 when we're relatively healthily forced before. The crossbowmen, they actually fared a little bit better than I thought they would. It's possibly that the smart thing was that Miles realized he wasn't going to be able to get out of that situation in time. So what he did is he broke himself up into wide formation. Now, wide formation is useful to soak up that cavalry charge because they can't get as deep in and they can't just hit as many units before they sort of stutter through. But it was a little bit costly, and I'm not quite sure whether they took out enough cav to make it worth it. And that's a nasty cavalry loss there from the catapult as it comes in, and it's slightly unfortunate the second one went a little bit short. But that's a good strong hit. A number of expensive cavalry lost there, and it looks like it's come from his Rohan riders, and they are breaking. You can see that from that the 35 that were left was routed, and that's really costly for Happy Meal. He's got an expensive cav force, and losing that many strong forces, that's going to really hamper his chances, and I think he's going to be really upset about losing that cav. You can see here that they're still having trouble here keeping the Numenorians down. They are a good unit, and they are still making their presence known. Looks like they're starting to fall back now that Miles has been able to reposition himself. And it looks like that these mounted Numenorians, unless they consider about pulling out soon, are going to get themselves caught. Now, it could be, again, a sacrifice unit for the catapult to come in. And there's another strong hit. I think one friendly fire that came in there, and the other one just goes over the top. And you can see now that Mordor has seen his opportunity to strike. He is starting to break formation. Gondor still staying back. I'm not quite sure about that. If your army and your ally moves forward, you've got to move up with him. If he comes out by himself and the dwarves have an opportunity to pick him off with Happy Meal, then it's going to be just the one army left having to sort of macro against two. And there's a little bit of friendly fire there. You can see that the catapult, as it stands, is taking 3 out of their own, but that's nothing compared to the damage it's forced on Happy Meal. And I think it's definitely that catapult is doing its worth. And I think Miles will probably be wondering why he didn't bring a ballista with him and why he put his forces so far back in the startup. You can see here that the Blackrock Engineers are starting to pepper down these spearmen as they come forward. It's probably not going to be enough before they get into range. Well, it won't be because there's so few of them left now. But he's just going to try and soften them up before his Guards of Khazak Doom come in. And there's 2 forces of them, healthy force, and they're going to come in and it's going to be a nice, good fight with these Morgul Chosen. Spearman unit versus very strong guards. And here comes the catapult again. It's changed our targets. It's going to come in for some of the more costly units of Miles, and it's just going to drop short on 2 strong forces there. And I think that they're going to be happy that these are going to be misses, and I think they're both going to probably be wishing that that catapult runs out of ammunition soon. And look at the hordes of dead. Look at the cavalry fall from that prolonged melee fight with the mounted Numenorians. They are a strong cavalry unit and certainly can't be poo-pooed. The evil factions have had a strong buff off of the back of the mod that's been created, and you can see now that they're certainly a force to be reckoned with, and they haven't even considered sending in their trolls yet. Still holding them back and waiting. And that looks like a nasty... Oh, no, they got fortunate. Just the one Reclaimer. Now, these are axe throwers. They're very good at armor piercing, and if these Numenorians stay too long, these axe throwers will probably cut them up pretty quick. They've got some nice damage, and they've got some nice piercing. You can see now that you can truly see the infantry battle has now begun, and he's got to be careful. He just fired a big shot into the Guards of Khazak Doom, but if that had dropped short and hidden his guard and the spearmen, then that could have really caused problems, and they could have routed against him. But he's going to send the trolls in to take on the guards, which is probably fair. I reckon that even though there's so few of them, they're such a strong unit, they would probably win that matchup without the support there from the Uruk-hai. And you can see here that the Guards of Khazak Doom are pretty confident about facing an entire force of Numenorian Shield Guard. And they're sending up the bodyguard now to come in and support. Gondor now has seemingly started to break its formation, but is it too late? And it looks like the formation is broken because of Happy Meal is coming and he's started to really harass them in the back lines. Now this is the slight problem that they've got. Because Mordor moved forward by himself, this gave a large opening here, and Happy Meal's exploiting that to come in, and looks like it's going to be a big charge into the back, and it is. He's really starting to get those hammer and anvils in, and this is what happens. Like, as much as Gondor is now hurrying into position, and he's trying to use his cavalry to keep Happy Meal busy. If he'd just moved up with his ally to begin with, this large gap wouldn't have been here. Now, it could have been that they wanted to do that to try and wedge them and almost sandwich them in, but it's going to be costly, especially with this catapult crew now taking some heavy shots, because this whole rear section has now been opened up. Now the infantry engagement is taken, and the battle line is starting to form a little bit. It's a little bit all over the place. You can see that Miles is moving some of his stronger forces in to try and finish some of the gaps where he had his crossbowmen before, and Balin's guard there now sort of just holding in reserve, waiting in the wings, and it looks like they're going to come in here and take on this bodyguard, which I think is a fair matchup. I think they'll be happy with that. The Reclaimers, they're still doing work. I think they want to get a couple shots off, but he may even be looking to send them into melee or bringing them up closer for a juicier target, which I think possibly with the Temple Guard if he's going to get them into range. And you can see here that the shots now are falling a little bit short, and I think Having will be happy with that. It looks like his Royal Guard are now just trying to finish off the last of what was left of the Mounted Inquisitors. So the enemy cav force seems to be limited now a little bit to the Swan Knights and the Tirith Era Knights, which seem to be being held in reserve. I don't see much in the way of the Black Numenorians cavalry anymore, which I'm sure that they'll all be quite happy about, as Happy Meal will have to start trying to make his way back into this battle. The balance of power is still close, and actually the kills is quite similar. But what I would say is that Mordor's armies are traditionally quite large, and cav units are generally a little bit smaller. So it could be either way, but it's still anyone's game here, and you can see that my allies will be Happy Meal and Miles for the purposes of this, which you can see that they are just 2% in it, and that could be anything, especially if they can get dominance in terms of cavalry, then that could be everything. I think the routing that he had early on was a real unfortunate situation, and I think he lost some rather expensive units for that one sort of shot from the artillery. And you can see here that the Guards of Khazad-dûm still performing well, still happy with their situation against the Spearmen. The question is, where are those Uruk-hai? And here they are. They've got into the back sections here. They're starting to go for some of the archers that have been brought over. And you can see there they're still healthy, and they don't even look particularly bloodied as they start to come into the back, and they're looking for that nice juicy kills on those archers. Again, the Reclaimers, if they should still have ammo, would be a nice unit to try and take out these Uruk-hai. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that Happy Meal's going to have to try and find some heavy cavalry if he's got any free that he can spare and get some nice charges in. And I think that's what he's going to try and do here with his Royal Guard. They are classed as infantry, and this should be quite damaging if he can get this to pay off. Oh, and look! Oh, it looked like the more were going to fall, but actually they held up pretty well. Not one of the Uruk-hai seemingly falling anytime soon. And actually they held up pretty well. Let's see if they became blooded at all. No, they seem to soak that really well. I think Happy Meal will be a little bit disappointed. He looked like he got a good charge off. It looked like he hit a good number of them, and actually it looked like he paid a price a little bit for a couple of units, but it doesn't look like it did too much. But obviously he's trying to whittle down that HP. If he can get these guys out of the way, then I think he's going to be a lot happier with the situation. Again, there's only 2% in it, and if he can get ownership of that cavalry battle, he can get some nice good fights off. He just needs to get rid of these Swan Knights. He's peppering them down. He's trying to force them to come for him. He wants to kite them around. Trolls are a powerful unit, and they are a strong force, and you can see now that he's going to try and move this catapult up. He's going to try and see if he can get some nice shots on. He's probably going to try and target these guys at the back still, some of these blobbing areas. Now Miles is doing a good job at trying to make sure that he's not giving too much opportunity for that catapult to get the same kind of hits that it did before. I suspect that the Lords are probably going to be a nice juicy target if they've been spotted. Otherwise, it'd be interesting to see. Catapults can sometimes be pretty deadly to your own forces in the past. I've seen them ruin allied armies. But Miles is holding his own. His infantry is going to be really strong, and I think he's going to still be happy. This mounted Swan Knights against the Reclaimers, I think the Swan Knights will probably take that. The Reclaimers are a ranged unit, and we do have our first enemy general dead. So Mordor has lost their general. Now, in the scenarios for those that watch that, oh, and he's torn into some of his own men. That's unfortunate. In the scenarios that we often play, you probably don't see many.
Am I disturbing?
Was in the middle of the battle. How can I help, Sin?
Our battle just crashed.
Okay.
and it was pretty much a draw. Like, it was 5 minutes before the end, and it was very drawish.
Okay. Do you want to just leave it as a 0-0?
Yeah, should we do that?
Yeah. Mark it in and then record it somewhere.
Okay.
So you can see there the catapult came in and that was devastating against his own forces. This is kind of the thing where I was talking before. Catapults are a tricksy lover and they're quite fickle and they can be as good as bad. This is going to be bad. If Happy Meal stays like this, that'll be where my catapult would be aiming. Now it could be that they're short on ammunition and they aren't the best melee unit in the world and he wants to try and make him be a target to save some of those more expensive forces by the dwarves. And we will have to see how it goes. And it does look like he's aiming for these rear lines. But he didn't lose that many in the end. Like, okay, 6 or 7, but again, they still have the full ammunition of their team, and it probably won't be too much of a problem. But they are starting to get around here. They are starting to break their way through. The Wardens of the White Tower here definitely want to see some cycle charges here, and it looks like that's what Happy Meal's got prepared for them. Now, you can see here, now what they're going to have to do is they're really going to have to push forward. They need to clear Miles away, because if Miles can continue to hold himself in his position, then Happy Meal will soon be in the position where he can start getting those charges, and you can see that the Rangers now having to fall back. They're going to have to try and deal with these Rangers, and you can see the Swan Knights are having to hold back in reserve, which almost means that they become relatively ineffective and not very useful because they're so busy trying to keep Happy Meal at bay. And that catapult really is now, after being so successful in the beginning, causing massive problems. It's just shooting straight into the dirt. He is still fortunate. The Mordor hasn't had much in the terms of breaking so far. They still seem to be relatively healthy, and it is 3% in it. And those Uruk-hai back in the back lines again, still healthy. They've lost 2 since last time we checked. They obviously are starting to get wheeled down, but they're still there, making their presence known. But I do feel like if they can get rid of those guys, then they really starting to open up that situation. If they can make some of these rear charges pay off, they can get some breaking. Now, I don't expect to see the Númenórean Shield Guards break anytime soon. They're a very strong unit. But I think that we'll start seeing possibly some of them break with the General gone. And I think there was a really good sort of move by the guys to try and bring this back. And the balance of power is still dead even. But we still have plenty of time to go. We're still not at the halfway mark yet. And you can see the cycle charges really starting to come in. They're starting to work and whittle down the infantry. And it might be a bit strange why they'd be going for that. But again, Happy Meal's got cavalry to spare, and they don't have infantry to spare. Now, they know that Miles has probably the stronger infantry, and if they can really start getting rid of some of these guys and start just making their presence known, soften everybody up, then that will give an opportunity for Miles to work through. And they're not even bothering with the catapult anymore. They've obviously felt that the catapult is probably not worth going for. There probably doesn't have much ammunition left, and we'll probably see some cows being flung soon. And again, I think they're probably relatively happy about taking on Troll Catapult crew. They're not the strongest in the world. And you can see here a very good strong hit against the Gondor archers, causing them to become shaken. If he can get a few more onto them, he could even cause a break. But it does look like the Swan Knights have been kited out of position. They are just sat there, possibly a microing issue going on. They are just sat, but they are taking the artillery and the archery, from the missile cavalry without having too many concerns. Again, I still think that what's happening here is Happy Meal is really just kind of kiting those really expensive cav units away just to give him free reign here. And you can see he's making the most of it. Another attack straight into the backs of these Gondor archers is going to start paying the price, and they're going to start feeling that. And again, he pushes through into the catapult crew, taking out a good number, and you can see that he's having to bring over the Tirith Area Knights, which are strong, but they're not going to get a charge off, but they can hopefully try and lock down some of these guys. But it looks like Happy Meal's seen it, and the Royal Guard are going to pull back and get away again. In terms of the battle line, it's becoming a bit messy now as Mordor tries to push through in those back lines. Again, he's going for those reclaimers. He's trying to take out those axe throwers. And you can see that his Uruk-hai down to 4 now, still playing around with the archers at the back. And it's quite a nice little position they've got there, because every time Happy Meal's charging in, he's having to charge his own forces, which are kind of buffering really some of those charges, so he can't get the full charge bonus I think that he'd like, and he's not doing as much damage as he'd want. But they are starting to drop, and I think we will see them fall soon. In the meantime, Happy Meal's still making the most of his rear hits. Again, balance of power still relatively similar. It's now moved up to be a 4% in it. With the Swan Knights still being kited around. They're not losing any, but they're really not being able to make their presence known. And I think if I was them, I'd almost give up on that fight and come back and support my infantry force. The catapult has now been silenced. It looks like it's probably run out of ammo. And you'll probably start to see these guys fall relatively quick. They are trolls, but they are not Uruk-hai. And I think the Royal Lords are going to go for a nice rear charge right into the back of the shield guard. And you can see they are starting to whittle them down. That looks like almost 10. And another forward charge from them as well, straight into the dismounted knights. Again, it looks like another 10 losses there. That's going to be really good for them. I think they're going to be really happy about that. And you can see that they're going to start probably see the percentages pulling closer and closer now. And he's really making the most of this, almost, like I said, monopoly that he's got with his cavalry. Right there into Temple Guard, another expensive missile unit. These knights really not making themselves as useful. They really need to try and get in there, try and cut down some of these horses, try and keep them busy. But it's not going to be easy for them. They're being pulled around, and you can see he's probably given up now. And his Knights of the Silver Swan are going to come in. They're going to try and hit these reclaimers. I don't know how many axes they've even got left, but they're going to have to try and soak a very strong charge. He's taken a little bit of a charge into his own men, but it's still going to be a big hit there. And it looks like the Dwarves have taken it relatively well, not losing as many as I think they were feared to, and I think they'd be quite happy with taking that hit. So I just need to take a drink. It's quite a big fight. The battle line's starting to come back together. It looks like the Uruk-hai are now finally dealt with. It's one fellow just still there, working his way through, stuck in the middle of the cavalry and the archers, and once he's down, and there he goes. That's really going to be a massive boon now. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that... oh, the general has fallen on the Allied side, so I can't tell who it is. But it's going to be the Dwarves have lost their general. That's unfortunate because the Dwarves are really trying to having to hold this together against some real pressure. It'll be interesting to see whether Happy Meal can try and make some of these Mordor forces break since they are also without a general. But losing his Dwarven general's real hard. But Dwarves do have good morale, and he has taken expensive units. We're not talking about any simple Dwarves here. We're talking about the creme de la creme infantry he's got. On those Silver Knights now, they seem to be caught up a little bit in prolonged melee. They're not really getting out to get their charges off. And again, I think the Dwarves will be happy seeing them sort of stuck in the centre. Again, it gives Happy Meal that free reign to sort of charge around. And I think Happy Meal needs to start looking at some of these missile units again at the back and sort of see about the opportunities here, especially bunched up forces here, where he's got some Temple Guard, which are an expensive unit and they can fight well in melee. And it does look like he's seen them with his Royal Lords. Let's see what they go to. They're 47 now. And they soak it a little bit. Oh no, and there goes the charge. You can see it's devastating. Look at them drop. And they're down from, that's 27 forces. That's absolutely costly. And you can see the balance of power now. There's 2% in it as they start pulling this back with these cavalry charges. They almost have free reign entirely now. There's one cav force that still seems to be making its way around. But as much as it's driving off these broken archers, it really hasn't been able to come into play, I think. And those archers were probably relatively depleted from the Uruk-hai. And you can see that Happy Meal now is looking to try and stop this one Knights from the back lines where they've routed another group of archers. Possibly also from the pressure that you've got from the dismounted Knights, which are depleted. But Happy Meal's going to have to deal with this. He needs to get that complete cavalry sort of control, and then I think what he'll do is he'll start to really tighten the screw then. But it's not over yet. Mordor are starting to thin out, but they still have some strong forces. The Knights still have 12 Knights left, and they are still archers at the back. It will be interesting to understand how much ammo they have. The Illithid Rangers will probably still have a fair amount of ammo because of the unit type that they are. And you can see that the Fountain Spear Guard are now forming up, but if he's unlucky, he's going to get charged if he leaves them a little bit too open. But it could be that he sets them up and he wants them to soak the hit to try and get those archers to continue to hit some of that cav. But you can see here that Miles is starting to wrap round now with Dragon Slayers.
This is a brawl.
And you can see that he's now starting to create quite a U shape. And I think what he wants to do is try and make this open for Happy Meal to start getting those charges in, but also try and defend him slightly by putting the archers on the other side so they don't get a point-blank hit. But you can see the Gondor archers have now moved up, although depleted, and they're going to try and start shooting into the back of the Dwarven Slayers. Again, the Knights here, what they probably want to do is try and come back and join that Intap's rear charge, try and get some hammer and anvil in, especially the dwarves losing their general. That could be really useful for them. But it looks like Happy Meal is going to make the most of the opportunity he's been given and try and get this costly Fountain Guard in the back, possibly. And there he goes into the Fountain Guard. I don't think he got the charge he wanted to. It looks like he's probably having a little bit of trouble because of the way that the forces have been spread out, and his sort of slowly depleted Caveats are having difficulty. He really needs to try and lock down those Silver Swans, but it depends how he wants to do it. Now, he can continue to try and charge into him, or he could send a unit to sacrifice just to keep them busy. And unfortunately, it does look like he's got a unit of 33 archers that are routing. That is really unfortunate for him. But we're starting to see like the end drawing close now, and it's 2% in it. It's really going to come down to who can hold longer. Miles still has a strong force of melee infantry, and it'd be interesting to see how he goes in terms of being able to sort this out. You can see now that Gondor's starting to wrap around, and we'll see how the Iron Reclaimers do. And here comes the rear charge. Again, the rear charge didn't seem to pay off as well as it wanted it to, but here comes another one now from the Swan Knights into the back of the Ironfoot Guard. But they have now got themselves locked in, and it looks like Happy Meal's going to take the opportunity to force these cav into prolonged melee. Again, if they can clear that cavalry, these two cavalry units off the field, I think that they're going to have a chance. But the balance of power is now beginning to slip slightly away from them. You can see here that although the percentages are still within 2%, that bar is starting to shift away from Happy Meal and Miles, and it's going to be pretty close, and they've still got time left to go. But right now, it's still anybody's game with 2% in it. And a rear charge then now onto the Knights. And they are starting to drop. The Royal Guard is making some, doing some good work on them, and they seem to be relatively eager in that fight. Again, it looks like the prolonged melee for these Knights is going to cause them to start falling, but the Swan Knights still holding strong with 12 units left as they're going up against some Royal Hordes. And they think that they're relatively confident in that battle. But it does free up the dwarves, but they are starting to thin now. They are extremely powerful forces, but they are up against Fountain Guard, and they really need some rear charges into those Fountain Guard because they're not going to get through otherwise. But it does look like the Elephant Rangers are chasing down some routed units. That's going to be a real problem if they're going to run off like that. They're going to really miss those units on the battlefield. And there goes another general. This will be the the Rohan general. So now both generals on Miles and Happy Meal are fallen. The only general remaining is that of Gondor, which might be the unit up over here. It's possible he's shifting them out the way to try and make it so the general doesn't fall, so his forces don't break. Again, the Swan Knights still up and running. If you can get those down, it'll be much better because then you can really start getting some charges off. But Happy Meal does look like he's probably running out of cavalry. This is going to be a massive blow to their chances. If he does run out of cavalry, that'll be almost game over, really, because Miles is going to have to deal with repeated cavalry charges from a depleted unit, admittedly, but a unit that are both extremely strong and powerful. And again, now it's just going to be the final remnants of the cavalry, I think, are going to be fighting. But here we go. The Illithid Rangers have returned to the battlefield. But I think that will be it for Happy Meal's forces. And it's really just Miles now. And you can see the balance of power definitely slipping away from them. It's starting to really sort of move away. And I think we're going to start seeing cycle charges at the back and probably the end of the Rohan Dwarf Alliance. Now, for those watching, this is the case where this is a round robin. It is not over for either team, and it could be that they chose factions which they were least comfortable with in their early bouts, so that they can really make the most of the more powerful factions in the later rounds, in the hopes that people would choose their more comfortable battles and factions early to get early wins. That would give them a huge opportunity towards the end, because they can take ones that they're really happy with against opponents who are less assured of the factions that they are being forced to take, because they can't repeatedly take the same factions each fight. But I think this is going to go to the way of Mordor and Gondor. Again, I think good play to both sides. It was a grueling battle, and you can see that for a long time they were very even. And even now, there's only a few percentages in it. I think that both sides should be happy with their performances. Oddly enough, I think the big winner for Mordor was that catapult. It really took out some expensive cavalry very early on, and it caused some really heavy cavalry to break. A unit of 32 heavy cavalry, which I think that Happy Meal would really have preferred to keep. And that's the end of that. That's the first battle over. We're going to take a short break while we set up for the next rounds. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you guys in round 2. While we're here, hopefully we'll be able to see the stats before we finally disappear. But they're just finishing off now the last of the broken forces. But there's only 4% in it, so pretty damn close. Hopefully the stats appear soon. Obviously somebody still hasn't admitted defeat. There we go. So you can see here that Happy Meal did do a lot of kills, as did Miles. It just wasn't enough to overturn it, and it was just too much in the end. Unfortunately, you can't see anyone else because they're a different faction. So you can have a look at my hobbits, and they did nothing. But there you have it, guys. Thank you very much for watching.